Last year, I enrolled my children in the white school, and that made matters worse for my part. You know, the boss man, he didn't like it, and all the white people around there didn't, none of them like it. I reckon because I was the only family in the country that had children going to that school. They didn't seem to bother them in the town so much. But looked like they're just taking out at me. And me and the boss fell out about it. What little it wasn't too much to make us fall out, because I was a Negro, as they call it, and he's a white man, as they call it. And then he wanted me, he did tell me to move. But before that happened, he wouldn't give me no work, and I'd go and the place try to find a job. And I found a job on the road, and he went and told the fellas they couldn't hire me because he needed me. And I went back to the boss man. And he started me to work that next week. I think I made about 40 hours. And that was all the work that he gave me from September up until December. Just because I put the children in the white school.
All right, Shalom. This is your brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwat, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rokah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwat is sisters. Shalom means peace, and Yasher Allah is Israel in ancient Paleo-Hebrew. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7. And it reads, "Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee." All right, and I want to go into a lesson through the Spirit on remembering the days of old. You know, 2/3 of our people have a short-term memory, you know, and that's because they've been seduced by the doctrine of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, you know, and they legitimately believe that, you know, racism is in the past. You know, the things that happened to our people, that was the past, and it no longer has any effect on the present. All right, and that is far from the truth. All right, and as it relates to the scriptures, the Lord requires that which is past. All right, matter of fact, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 15. And it reads, "That which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been. And Yahweh Shema Shai requireth that which is past." All right, so the Lord requires the things that have happened in the past. And this is why the Lord exhorts us to remember the days of old. You know, and this clip was a short and small example of the treachery of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and how much control they actually had in Jake's life. And they still have that same control, but it's not as personal. You know, this was one of those personal accounts where, you know, Jake basically sent his kids to a better school, and Esau was basically trying to frustrate his whole system, his whole situation. You know, basically starving him out from work in hopes that he would not be able to keep his kids enrolled in that so-called white school. All right. And this goes back to the curses. All right. Because contrary to popular belief, our people believe that we're free. We're not free. All right. If you're not a sovereign nation of people, you're not free. All right. Let's go here. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 46. All right. And it reads, you know what, Salakia? I'm going to jump down to 48. It says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee." All right. And this is why Jake don't need chains around their neck at this point. Because at this point, they've now been destroyed mentally. All right, this is why 2/3 of our people, you know, when we bring out the scriptures, one of the first things they ask us is about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Never mind all the treachery and the history of brutality. You know, our people suffer from Stockholm syndrome, where when salvation is presented to them, you know, what is made for their welfare, they automatically want to include their oppressors. You know, now the reason I brought this scripture out in particular was because we have to go to our enemies for the one of all things. That's work, that's transportation, that's food, that's clothing. You know, we're not a self-sustained nation of people, so we have to go to our enemies for the one of all things. All right, and this is why, you know, we look the captive exile hasteneth to be loose from this. All right, matter of fact, let me go here. I'm going to get this in Sirach. This says Ecclesiastes chapter 40 and 29. The life of him that dependeth on another man's table is not to be counted for a life. And that's our nation as a whole, man. You know, don't let these jakes that sell courses fool you into believing that now we can build generational wealth. No, you're sitting at another man's table. It's more sophisticated than chattel slavery, but it is oppression. You don't have any control of any resources. And this Jake, you know, this example through the spirit, you know, when I saw it, it reminded me of Deuteronomy 32:7. Remember the days of old. See, because Jake ain't got a Edomite in their face calling them a nigga, they believe that somehow racism no longer exists, or it's very few and far between. Like, you might have some isolated incident of racism, but that's it. It ain't as widespread as it used to be. And that's far from the truth. Esau just created a more sophisticated system of racism, where he don't have to come to individual Jakes and say you're a nigga. He's created a system that's more hands off. But this Jake was an example of how Esau would basically frustrate Jake, man. Persecute Jake. All right. And that goes into this precept. Because we require, you know, we're with the will of the Lord, and the Lord requires that which is past. We want to see justice. You know, a job won't suffice. You know, having a Jake get a gold medal in the Olympics doesn't mean we've progressed as a nation of people. Having them interview Jay-Z 30 or 40 times because he's a billionaire doesn't mean we've progressed as a nation of people. And our people have forgotten the days of old, whereas the Lord has raised up the elect to remember these things and to consider them, man. Our people had to live through this, man. Jake said between September and December, he only worked 40 hours. Imagine trying to provide for your family with an Edomite over you who won't let you work nowhere else. And then when you do work for him, he only give you 40 hours between September and December, man. And there's nothing Jake could do. There was no might in Jake's hands. This is Lamentations chapter 4 and 17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. You know, and it's almost like a delusion for our people to still be voting in 2025 as if we've received any kind of progress from Jake's votes. Our people voting for Democrat or Republican hasn't resulted in any substantial change for Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. No restoration of the atrocities that's been done to us as a people. It's symbolic participation. You feel like you're participating in the system, but when you look at the actual life of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you can't see any progress. And Esau psyched Jake out into believing, thinking like an individual, that they don't even look at us as a nation of people and zoom out. Because if you did, you would see that we have hoped. You know, our people have hoped for a nation that could not save them. They've invested all this energy and lives in hoping that one day these Edomites will look at them differently. And it's just never going to happen. That is the reality. Esau was not set up to show you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans compassion. And that's why he hasn't since you got over here. Because again, we live in a world where, especially with our people, when you bring up Esau, the so-called white man, being the devil and him going into slavery according to the scriptures, and Lord willing, we'll get that as well. When you bring these out, Jake get offended like it's not justice. You know, Jake look at it like it's wrong. You know, they have this mindset that it's wrong to even seek justice while fighting to be equal with your enemies. All right, let's continue. Verse 18, it reads, they hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near. Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness. And that was an example of Esau doing that. You know, this Edomite went out his way to make sure Jake couldn't work in hopes that Jake wouldn't be able to afford to put his children in a so-called white school system. And it shows you that Esau, the so-called white man, has a perpetual hatred. All right, he has a perpetual hatred. And that's not just the ones who are in leadership. That's the average Joe Schmo Edomite. The only reason they keep it cordial with you is because they got to work beside you. But in reality, they think the same way the Edomites that are in charge think. And ultimately, that will never change. And that's why we desire the day of the Lord, when things will be rendered and recompensed. Because we understand through the Spirit that we'll never get justice from Esau. It's going to have to come from the Heavenly Father. All right. Matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to grab this one. This is Jeremiah 30:16. Because the judgment, for those who don't know, is that all the nations who have touched and afflicted Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians, who are the Israelites, are going into captivity. Because they either had us in captivity or they participated in gathering us and putting us in captivity. Or they have benefited from us being in this lower state and in captivity. All right, this is Jeremiah 30:16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. And this is coming straight out of the scriptures. You know, because when they hear the words of the Lord, and they hear brothers on the highways and hedges, beginning with our apostles, you know, they automatically assume brothers is just saying this off the top of their head and from out of nowhere. No, these are in the scriptures. These verses are in the Bible everybody claimed to believe in. And it identifies who the Israelites are by the curses. We will go into slavery with ships. We will be the tail and not the head. We would have to go to our enemies for the one of all things. And in this politically correct system, they'll try to finesse Jake into believing that it's wrong to remember your past and desire that justice be given. You know, they'll term it hate or they'll term it racism. But it's truly justice when you look at it. All right. The scriptures say the Lord is not mocked, man. All right. And that's why through the Spirit, the Lord has the remnant that will not bend the knee to Baal. All right. That gaslighting, that manipulation that this system puts out there to demonize Jake for desiring justice for what's been done to us, that won't work on the elect. Just like they tell the small hats to never forget the 6 million. Or a more modern event, remember 9/11. You know, when you ask an Edomite about Osama, or you ask a small hat about Hitler, I'll just say it that way. You know, they don't say we got compassion for him. They don't say we forgive and we let bygones be bygones. No, they have an attitude of hate towards that guy or those two individuals. But then they'll try to tell Jake to forget the past. All right. And that's why the Wadi Habashim al-Shah for the elect. You know, Lord willing, we be a part of that number who will not bend the knee to Baal and who will no longer stay upon them that smote us. All right. Let's go here. Matter of fact, let's go there. This is Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Yashar'Allah, in truth. So we no longer need the validation of those who smote us, those who destroyed us. And that's what 2/3 of our people are looking for. Black Lives Matter was a movement about seeking validation, begging your enemies to acknowledge your life, to acknowledge that your life matters. Even that whole movement was from an inferiority complex. You know, and our apostles talk about this often, about having a ruling class mentality. A part of having a ruling class mentality is a desire to see recompense and justice for what's been done to you and your people. All right. And that's according to the scriptures, not according to Esau's manipulation, because he'll tell us to forget our history. All right. While remembering his and celebrating his. All right. There's Ecclesiasticus chapter 25. And I'm going to jump down to verse 7. There be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemies. All right, which reminds me, all right, in Revelation, the 15th chapter, it talks about them singing the song of Moses. All right, and I'm going to get this, and then we're going to get the song of Moses. Just to show you that in the scriptures, the Israelites, all right, we're never talking, the discussion was never about including other nations into the blessing of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It was always that looking forward to the Lord establishing the kingdom of heaven under the Messiah. That was the goal. That was the prophecies. The bulk of the prophecies were about that time period, coming into that time period of the Messiah and the restoration of all things, concerning the nation of Israel being brought back into prominence and ruling forever, and their enemies being their captives, ruling over their oppressors. This is why even in Revelation, the 15th chapter, they're singing the song of Moses. And we're going to get what the song of Moses is. But before that, this is Revelation 15:2. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of Yahweh Shema Shai. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of the Most High, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are thy works, Lord power almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou King of the saints. All right, now let's go to Exodus 15, which is where you find the song of Moses. All right, it's Exodus 15:1. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my power, and I will prepare him an habitation, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his hosts hath he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. So you get a window into the song of Moses, and it's a song about justice, about the Lord fighting the enemies of Israel, which shows you that theme did not leave in the Old Testament. All right, it wasn't just left to the Old Testament. All right, it's all connected when you understand the proper context through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. And that's the comfort that we have. So when we see videos like this of a Jake who had to live his entire life being persecuted by these Edomites, we don't get discouraged, because we know the Lord is going to restore. The Lord is going to have vengeance for what's been done to us as a nation of people. All right. Esau may think he has gotten away, but he hasn't. All right. This is Deuteronomy 32. And I'm going to jump down to verse 43. And it reads, Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. And the Lord hasn't changed. And this is why we see the fall of the West begin. All right. Leading into what? World War III. All right. Famine, pestilence. The MOTB being made mandatory. But ultimately, it's going to end in the destruction of Esau, the so-called white man's empire. And all of these nations who have fought against us as a nation of people are going into captivity. That is the judgment. This is why you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans have never received reparations on this side, because the reparations are ultimately going to come through Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. As a matter of fact, this is Deuteronomy 32. I'm going to start up at 35. To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. Now, at one point, the Lord was talking to us because we were a nation void of counsel. But the Lord always promised that he would avenge us concerning our enemies. Like King David said, remember Edom. You know, there's a constant theme in the scriptures. There's a constant reiteration of begging the Lord to remember our enemies, to avenge us. This is why when you go to Isaiah 14, and I'm going to just start at the top. Isaiah 14:1, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And these scriptures bring us great comfort because we realize when we see videos like the one that started this lesson, that as angered as we get, concerning what Esau was able to do, we realize that it was a judgment from the Heavenly Father for correction, but that the Lord is going to judge these nations for what they've done, chiefly Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Us being in this condition was a disciplinary action. It was a chastening from the Lord. What's about to happen next is scourging. All right. Pursuing unto this scripture. This is Wisdom of Solomon 12. And 22. And it reads, therefore, whereas thou dost chasten us, thou scourgest our enemies 1,000 times more, to the intent that when we judge, we should carefully think of thy judgment, thy goodness, and when we ourselves are judged, we should look for mercy. All right, which shows you that what we went through was a chastening. You know what that Jake went through, the lynchings, the castrations, the buck breaking, the breaking up of households. All right, having to go to your enemies for the one of all things. All right, Jake being tortured, Jake being turned into delicacies. All of that was the Lord chastening us. And when you go through the scriptures, the Lord said what he gave us was less than we deserve, so we deserve worse. But the point that I'm making is what's coming next concerning our enemies is going to be far worse than what the Lord did to us concerning chastening. All right. And this is why Esau hates this word, because, again, it holds Esau as a nation accountable, because in their mind, they were going to just ride off into the sunset. Let bygones be bygones. All right. This is Jeremiah 49:12. For thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. So the Lord is saying the people that he loved, this is what the Lord put us through. And he's asking this rhetorical question. Do you think you're going to go unpunished if this is what I did to the people that I love? And the answer is no. Matter of fact, I'm going to read this again. Jeremiah 49:13, for I've sworn by myself, You know, that's the Lord speaking. Saith the Lord, that Basra shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. Meaning it's not an if, it's a when. The Lord said he sworn by himself that this is going to happen. So it don't matter what Esau got planned. All right, the recompense is coming, the big payback. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying with that. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwad, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.